G'day and welcome again to the Campfire Project panel discussion today. First of all, I have Kenny Mamarella de Cruz, the Man Whisperer. How are you, Kenny?
Hey, very, very well. Thank you. Chuffed to be here again.
Excellent. And we have Lee Walton, who is a pianist, organist, vocalist and composer. How are you, Lee?
I'm very well. Glad to be here with you.
It's great to have you, and both of you from the UK, which is fantastic. And then we have Runa Magnúsdóttir, who is a co-creator of No More Boxes and personal branding specialist. How are you, Runa?
Oh, I'm super well.
Excellent. You're all the way from Iceland.
Yes.
Excellent. And then we have what we were talking about earlier on, a bit of a discussion around turning around the misunderstandings, miscommunications, conflicts and pain that so many people are going through at the moment. And Kenny, you were talking about Mercury in retrograde. Can you sum that up a little bit for us and talk about how, due to the lockdown especially, that there might have been some conflicts that need recovering due to that?
Please correct me along the way if anyone knows better, but my understanding of Mercury is the messenger of the gods as far as I know. And when Mercury is in retrograde, is it 3, maybe 4 times a year? That's when people have misunderstandings. People are generally late. So there's logistic issues. There are communication issues. Computers break down. Trains are delayed. It's chaos in that way. And especially recently with a full moon, because usually when there's a full moon, then all the emotions are up. People are more vulnerable. And a lot of people deal with vulnerability with anger. And with the moon, it's like suddenly there are short fuses. There's a lot more crime, more violence. There's a lot more drinking. Apparently, there's a lot more sex.
Not in my world.
And what's been going on recently since lockdown, where kind of like so many people are either isolated and getting more and more disconnected and more depressed even due to lack of physical touch or lack of being in the same room. It's really, it's like incarceration. It's shocking. Either that or the other extreme where people are locked in with each other, and so many individuals, flatmates, but more than anything, families, couples might not be used to being with each other all the time. And I've been working so much more with couples not getting on the verge or filed for divorce already. I've been working with people like, who are these children and why don't they listen, and what's going, everyone's like kind of getting to know the worst of each other, because it's like stuck together and there's no space of going to work or seeing friends or going to school. So the intensity of all of this can make people not just misunderstand and lash out, but also lash inwards. And it's like, what's wrong with me? Or I'm bad, I'm wrong, I'm the problem. And there's the disconnection. And sadly, it goes in the head, and then there's second guessing, rather than people saying, I fantasize you just thought this about me, or I feel this about what you just said, or can I just be clear about what's going on? It all becomes kind of like psychological warfare and terrible fears and fantasies. And for me, breaking the spell is speaking it out loud. I fear you right now, because I had this with my best friend the other day, because we had a huge misunderstanding. And when we got together again, we were honest enough to say, I'm scared of you. I'm a bit shy of you. I'm sheepish about where we are and what's going on. And it just kind of got out of hand. So for me, it's like break the spell and have the courage to speak it out or to ask it. And since lockdown, every weekday lunchtime, I've had men's groups every day, because men especially will go into the head, get into fear and fantasy, try and fix things and kind of push it down and down and down, and then bang. And that's what we've been taking the edge off. So hopefully, especially with Mercury retrograde, it's like so intense. So hopefully, not only will we be exploring, but we'll be demonstrating between the 4 of us how to speak it out.
Yeah, because as I understand it, Mercury in retrograde is alignment of the planets, and if you're watching it, it looks like the planets start to go backwards. It's really just the alignment of it that they don't line up. But if they're all in alignment, that's got to change the gravitational effects and everything else, because we know that the moon does affect us with the gravity. It affects water. The bulk of us is water, so that's got to have an impact on us. But something like that, where they've got so many more planets, there's got to be an impact there. So you'll find that people are behaving probably worse than normal in that situation. In Iceland, what have you found, Runa?
It's really interesting. I love what you were saying, Kenny, around this, what so many people have been experiencing during lockdown. And it's also so interesting to see how quickly we go back to the, I don't know, normal, if we can call it that. Yeah, because things have changed dramatically in only weeks over here in Iceland. So we've opened up, the country's opened up again. Everyone that comes in is tested, and that has caused new COVID incidents coming in. But nevertheless, I mean, I've been traveling around the country for 14 days, and I literally came back last Sunday, and I could feel how relaxed we were all of a sudden. Instead of going, hi, this thing here, when you met someone, it would be, hi, so good to see you. And we would be hugging. And I was just thinking afterwards, I thought, holy crap. I actually had thought during the lockdown, I thought, wow, will we ever hug again? Will we ever have that one, that deep connections? I was really going in there and starting to think about ways to go around that. But in fact, it's like, if someone would say to me, Runa, lockdown was actually last century, I would say, yeah, feels like that it was last century. It doesn't feel like it was just a couple of weeks ago. So it's interesting to see when you talk about Mercury retrograding, and I'm no expert in this. Sometimes I feel it's just retrograding all the time in my life. So, but it definitely has had a big effect and on all of us, and it has changed for so many people, the way that they see life, the way that they experience life. And here's where the mindset, I feel, comes in. Are we taking life as life happening to us or for us? And I think Mercury retrograde or not, I think it's a key question to ask yourself in any situation. Is this happening for me or to me? And it's a big shift when you understand how you can see it when it happens for you.
Excellent. And how about you, Lee?
Well, I think like most people, I felt an intensity around this period. And I think there are similarities between the lockdown and Mercury retrograde. That the two things have kind of similar qualities. I mean, my understanding about the alignment of the planets is that because everything is connected, then the planets express over history patterns in the human behavior, the evolution in human consciousness. It's that the connection, you can see through the alignment of the planets what's likely to be occurring to humanity, because the one thing is connected to the other thing. Sorry about that noise there. Let me just turn that off. Excuse me.
Sounds like a spaceship talking about other planets. We're having a visitation live.
Yeah.
Oh dear. Sorry, I should have turned that off. I actually saw a very well-respected astrologer called Robert O'Hotto. You should check this guy out. He speaks with such depth and insight about this concept of Mercury retrograde and what we're going through right now. You know, and one of the things that I realized in lockdown is that I really had to dig deep and ask how I was going to respond to this, because it shook everyone's life. It touched every part of everyone's life. And it just demonstrated how vulnerable we are to the greater force of, call it the cosmos, you know, God, divinity, whatever it is. But I cannot separate what's happened to the planet from a higher power. To me, in an incredibly important opportunity to go within and ask, what do we hold as precious to our lives? What do we dearly miss in this lockdown? The fact that I pined to be able to shake somebody's hand when I met them. And I don't use this word lightly, but the sanctity of human touch, how beautiful and precious that is. And so the lockdown to me it's been difficult on many levels, but it's been a revelation of the beautiful things that happen on a day-to-day basis that we kind of didn't realize as they were happening. So now many of us are starting to return to a more hopefully normal way of living. I do, and I'm aware of that gratitude that I missed before. I had a meal in my favorite restaurant the other day, and to be able to sit there and speak to people and watch their faces as they're communicating with each other. So many beautiful things.
I love that you've brought it to this level, because I feel, building on what you said, that people have been stripped back to the core of not only who are you really, what do you need, what do you believe in, what are your values, but I would say also, quite shockingly, what are your core wounds? When was your spirit broken? And I've been working with men who would ordinarily be jet-setting around, being high-flyer businessmen, or be having sex or drugs or drink or parties or whatever, and they haven't been able to have any of those distractions. They've been stuck with themselves, and they're the men that would never talk about anything. And suddenly they're up against it and they're saying, I'm having flashbacks of my abuse, of my torture, of my breakdowns. I forgot really important things about my childhood and now I don't know how to deal with it. And these are the men who are enough pain and available to themselves without the distractions to say, I need this sorted out now. And suddenly they're available to themselves, they're available to life, and they kind of realize that actually they're connected to life. And this goes to what you were saying, I think, Runa, and they are part of the creation rather than surviving and fighting against life and trying to be better so they can buy themselves out of things. They're part of the creation on the ground saying, now I need to live differently. I can't do that anymore. I have an idea of who I am. I've touched life again. And the way that I didn't trust life, well, I've been broken back into it. And that's a game changer. And these are powerful people. And I don't believe it needs to be necessarily even the most powerful person. It could be anyone at home who spreads the love or the truth or the ability to communicate. And it is a game changer for those that allow it to be.
I think it's definitely been an awakening of understanding or awareness of things. And some people have taken it really positive and others have taken it the negative side. As you said, some of those that then look at it and go, right, well, what was my life before? You know, what can I do better? And they can move in a positive direction. I know that when we had social distancing was the term that was used, which is one of my pet hates because it's physical distancing, not social distancing. But people I noticed that when you were out in the street, if you were out exercising or whatever, and the limitation of people that were there before COVID, we'd have crowds everywhere. Nobody would speak to anybody. They wouldn't even notice them because they were busy doing whatever they were doing. But then when there was only a few people on the street, you never walked past anybody. Yes, you got your physical distance from them, but you wouldn't go past them without smiling or saying hello. But we've now gone to where we're starting to get back out again, and people are saying to me, hey, I'm noticing that nobody's smiling or even saying hello to each other. It's almost like, I'll probably get into trouble for this one, but the lockdown with COVID wasn't long enough to help people break their old patterns, their old habits. Yeah, they got their awareness and then go, I just want to get back to what it felt normal to me. And they put the mask back on and shut back down again. And I think a lot of people are doing that.
I wonder
I think,
look at that, we're all in there. I'll step back and carry on.
Runa.
no, I was just, from what you're saying, Alan and Kenny, one of the things that I've noticed with what we're doing with No More Boxes movement, where we are really looking at who were you born to be, not conditioned to be. I feel there is a bigger awakening happening in the world, where there are more people that are, like you were saying, Kenny, that are either they're coming to that, into the corner that they feel they have to do something about it, or they simply are in their lives thinking it is okay now to open up and to explore who am I really. And COVID for many gave that space to look in and which was great. And I think there are always going to be people that are going to go whatever whatever that is. I don't think actually you can ever go back. I always think that you can only move forward, but
Never be the same.
Yeah, you would never be the same. But at saying that, my feeling is just that conversations that we've had through our movement with people, where we are spotting the box and opening up some of these boxes, understanding that the way that we are also conditioned by our gender, our race, our religion, our background, education, on and on and on, is not who you are. So having that time to explore that, I think there are more and more people coming out and saying, well, how I have been seeing the world till this day might not actually be the way that I want to see the world, or I want to be who I want to be in the world from now on. And I think that's a good thing. That's a really good and positive thing in my world, at least. Just to see, like you were saying, Kenny, just to talk about it, just to put that into words, because that's where magic happens in my way.
I'm blown away at how the gift, I believe, has been a space to be in a world that was addicted to doing. And it's globally, like, where did that come from? To have the space to not do, or to overdo and then stop doing, to get into the drinks and the Netflix and whatever it is, and then think, actually, okay, I'm over that. And to get into achieving things or feeling things, or I know you've pretty much almost finished your album in this space, Lee, which I'm guessing you wouldn't have had the space to do. I'm going to be launching an ebook on how to hold online men's groups, because I don't need it to be about me. I want to live in a world where people know how to talk. And a lot of people want to, but they may not have the people to, they may not have the language to, they may not have the tools to. So we get to share things. And so many people are knowing who they are from their being and extending their doing from there, rather than so busy doing through fear with no love or no point. And there is no being, and it's just like fear and frenzy. What a turnaround, what a huge potential.
Yeah, and I think as well, it's easy. I mean, many of us have spent time looking inwards anyway. So we're used to that relationship with ourselves, that inner dialogue. But I think for a lot of people, this has been a huge trauma, a huge shock, and they're still processing it. So what is about to emerge will be revealed at a later date. It's still trying to process. A lot of people, you know, can they afford to pay their bills? How long is their job going to hold out for? You know, there's people with relatives still in hospital. I was listening to, you know, LBC radio, and people phoning in say a lot of people are still ill from this virus that they had months ago. So there's these real practical things that a lot of people are still struggling with. And the kind of the positive aspects of it, I think, will be revealed once these things have been processed more. You know, I think it's been such a cataclysmic force that's been thrust on people. In the blink of an eye, everything has changed. And so there's so much to get through in this. But there'll be a kind of, there's been a fragmentation in one sense, like a breakdown. And on global proportion, that wasn't even seen in the world wars, because in the world wars, not every country was in the war. Now we have a whole planet engaged in a kind of a fragmentation, a breakdown. And I think we are realizing now, in ways that we never have realized, that we are one. You know, we are so interconnected. And the ramifications of this, when we reassemble, I mean, there's a huge potential here. And I think it's up to each individual to kind of find a way of sharing, of contributing positively in a way we can kind of help each other through this time.
I think that's an important part, is doing it together, because I know a lot of people will possibly feel that, as you said, so much has happened that how can I handle this? And they want to pull back and want to go back to some form of what they think is normal. And other people have got to that point, and they've, like as you said, Kenny, they're going, right, what is my life been about? But you know, how do I move forward from here? So some people move forward and some will pull back. But again, I think it's a case of the more that we're able to be together, because it has brought the planet together. You know, we have one common enemy, which is or several strains of it, but it's COVID. But every nation has been affected by it. So, but still there are some people who are still fighting against other nations, instead of just having that one common enemy and say, hey, let's come together and how do we move forward and how do we help each other?
So interesting the way you say that, because what crossed my mind is, and I haven't thought this through, is I wonder whether actually the common enemy is fear, or is the dark shadow. And I wonder about your work, Runa, because what I've been working with is from here and now, what's been triggered. And I know that as soon as I went into isolation a week before the country did, because someone I worked with had the symptoms and actually got COVID, I was re-triggered to when my family were on the death list and we had to go into hiding, and anyone who came near us we felt might be in trouble. So it's almost like we could contaminate and put people in trouble. And I kind of thought, I know this place. And rather than being freaked out, it was familiar as soon as I knew what it was. And I thought, well, I've survived this. How can I help other people survive it? And that's when I kicked into being busy. But it took me back there, and it enabled me to provide something as they move on. But it was great that I could go back there and I could say to my parents, this is what I've been feeling. And then my mother went, oh my God, now I know why I've been a bit scared and upset, because she put it on a news story rather than realizing it's from back there. But I feel like if I can retrieve my broken spirit or my trauma from back there and take care of that child with the man in me here, then and this is what I've always found with my work, and I wonder whether it's similar to your work, Runa, is when the man in me can take care of that boy and unlearn my trauma, I have the tools for my purpose, and that's what I move forward and contribute in the world. And I feel so much of that's all around me. That's what's going on. They get to know what's going on there, not just to be safe and not harm self and others here, but to be enabled, to be aware, to be empowered, to pass something on. Would you lot say that that's similar to where you've been and your experience and the way you see things?
I agree with you, and I think it's the most human thing ever to just to be aware that my thinking and my acting and my listening is based on something that either something that happened to me in my childhood, or even not even for me. It might have happened for my ancestors.
Yeah.
And most likely it happened for my ancestors. And it has, without the awareness, it's just gone through, person by person by person by person. And here I am in 2020. And when I realize some thoughts or some reactions that are based on something that has absolutely nothing to do with the present moment, it had all to do with something that was once a threat or once the norm, then I can do something about it.
Yeah.
And that's what I find so fascinating when for myself and for my clients and the people that I'm talking to, when we are able to talk about these things as in such an open way, without judgment, but just exploring it and even laughing at it, because hey, it is so ridiculous, some of these things, that when we manage to open that up and just say, holy moly, it just does not make any sense, and it's my responsibility. Am I going to keep talking this way, because it has a lot to do with how we use our language? Am I going to just manifesting the same thing again and again and just being just not responsible at all? Or am I actually going to wake up, and when I catch myself doing those things, that I can say it out loud, say, oh, sorry, I'm actually doing something that it's not, I'm just doing it in a sleepwalking way.
The power of saying it out loud and breaking the spell on this level, the stuff that goes on in people's heads, but bringing it here, naming it, and it seems to disappear. It's like looking the bogeyman in the eye or something.
Yeah. And what you were both saying, what Runa and Kenny, you're saying there, it's very similar to Freud's concept of reliving and working through. And, people, different psychologists and philosophers have looked at it in a different way. But I think what the lockdown and what Mercury retrograde does is that it triggers old patterns that are unresolved.
Yeah.
Because these are not usually coming up so powerfully unless there's something unresolved about them. But there's a part of human nature that is attracted to situations where they get to relive things that weren't worked through. It happens a lot with people if you're working therapeutically with people, that you see that they enter into the same relationships with similar dynamics, or fall into situations where, how uncanny, this is familiar to you. And the reason is because there's a part of us that just wants to be able to experience it in a different way and know what it is that attracted it, so that we can put a new template on our patterns and our new lives. It's a new archetype then through which we can work through life, And I think this is what is one of the greatest gifts in this time. If we can do that and stay with the pain, stay with the trauma long enough
Mm.
to be able to understand what's at the center of it, the gift there.
I think to be able to stay with at that level, it takes a fair bit of concentration, understanding. As you said, Kenny, before, fear, not so much COVID being the enemy. I'd like to explore that a little bit further, because I think we're focusing on COVID, and I loved what you said then, because it just triggered in my mind, are we still looking at the wrong area? Are we looking at something further out as opposed to coming back to where the real problem is? Because I think I'm feeling like COVID has really just been a trigger, an instigator to get us to look at something that's always been there. And fear was there, which is probably one of the reasons why we've lived the life we had before. We had that particular norm. So coming deeper into understanding the fear, but that if we understand that, then we've got a more chance of being able to do what you've been talking about here, of working through the stuff that's back here. Because Runa, as you said, the issues that we're hanging on to can be from our ancestors, and we know that every memory that we have is stored in every cell of our body. And so at the time of conception, all the memories of our parents are passed to us, the same as their parents passed their memories at that time to them. So we've got all of this in our system. And then knowing whether it's really ours or an ancestor's, well, we forgot it, it's ours anyway, we've got to deal with it. But where did it really come from? Could be from anywhere.
Yeah, and I think on that note, Alan, when you were saying, I mean, here I am, Icelandic, and when I thought about it for myself, and actually this goes to what you were saying, Kenny, about being a dowood all the time. I mean, I'm the perfect example of thinking that I have to do everything. And most likely, I mean, hey, if my ancestors are the Vikings and the fighters and fighting through life, and life was very hard in Iceland. I mean, we sometimes think that we live on the verge of a living environment in many cases. So my ancestors had to go through a lot in order just to survive. So here I am, and if I'm just asleep, I think I have to do that. And I think that I have to strive with my mouth clench and just do it like this and just come on, you know, and that is just giving me illness. So that awareness of thinking, I don't have to do that. I have to be more clear on who do I want to be.
I feel so many people have been exactly as the way that you say, and demanding, and I've done this, I'd say everyone I've worked with has done this. It's like, I know how to survive, so I will survive, and I demand that life brings me things to survive, to prove to me I can survive, so I don't have to start living. Because if I have to live, then that's vulnerable, that's out of control. And I know for me, for decades, I had a fear of doing well. And when I went so far, then I would change my career, I'd move house, I'd move country even, because in my pattern is we lost everything when we fled Uganda. And I thought, if I make it again, and it's going to go away again, then will I have it in me to make it again? So best not to make it, because then I won't have to lose it, and I won't have to. And I needed to break that pattern. But first I needed to go back and feel it. And the only way I believe I or anyone can heal things is feel it, feel into it, and feel through it. Thinking about it, how many years did I spend trying to hold it together while falling apart so it's tidy and safe and polite? And this is like hovering above the trauma. But the opportunity I feel we've had is we've had to go into the trauma. Those of us that can go into it and hopefully be held by the people we know, or even total strangers on the screen, or held by spirit, or held by old friends or family who we haven't thought about for a long time, but be held to go into it. Because my fear is, if I start feeling this, then I might go mad. I might start crying and never stop. I might have so much in my head going on and getting in place, but meanwhile, I'm disconnected from the outside world and I'll get locked up you know, the fears of going into it, but going into and through is the opportunity that so many people have taken. And my God, it's the courageous way. The enemy's not out there. And the shadow, the dark shadow is, I know there's stuff there, but I'm not going to go there. I'm going to survive it. You know, we are taught, don't feel, don't go into pain, don't go into fear. Pain's normal, fear's normal. All of this, it's like, it's part of life. But to be able to go into the dark shadow and through surely enables the gold shadow of not only who am I, why am I here, and expressing that, but being supported by life.
Because there are so many gifts in things like pain, and that I keep thinking about, if we had utopia, there would be no utopia because you've got nothing to compare it to. So all of a sudden it would no longer have any value. You know, there's so many gifts in the pain of going through things and how we grow and how we move forward. So we need to have those sort of things happening. Otherwise, we're just not living a full life. But I think the fear side of things, not wanting to go through things and holding it back. As you said, like, as you were saying, Kenny, where you made sure you got to a certain level and then you kill it before, because you didn't want to go up and then lose it. Well, you never got it to lose it in the first place. So you've actually, it's crazy thinking, but we all do it, I think. I know I've done it. When I go, if I do that, then I lose that, then I'm going to suffer. Well, I'm not going to experience it at all because I haven't even stepped into it. So I've actually given it away, not actually lost it. So I've never actually gained it in the first place. And I go, well, how many years did I waste doing that?
Yeah. One of the biggest things that I find people have been scared to do is to face who their family or community has really been, and to even think about it, leave alone talk about it, because there's a thing of don't betray the family, even at the cost of my life, even at the cost of my kids, even at the cost of everything that don't betray the family. It's almost like a pact. But to break that, so it's not betraying the family. And to talk about the way that you were talking about the ancestors, Runa, it feels like if I break the spell in the way that I live, I'm breaking the spell for the family around me that's alive, for the people, the chosen family, for the people that cross my path, and for the ancestors. It's setting us all free. It's breaking that spell. And I feel so much that as people speak out the fears and fantasies, rather than better not upset anyone, it's very dangerous because, I could lose all my friends. I could lose my work. I could lose my career. And I'm shocked at how many men have said, do you know what? I realized that for most of my life, the blokes I've been hanging out with are alcoholic like me, and all we talk about is football, and I'm sick of it because now there's no football and there's no alcohol. And, I dread them calling because we've got nothing to say, and we've been playing like boys and it's been in limbo. Now I realize I want more, but I don't know where to find it. And what they've been finding is be it, and it will be attracted. And that's the way it seems to be working, kind of energetically on the inner planes. And here we are, the four of us. Where did we find each other, apart from through you, Alan? But it's the similar vibe and the similar values and the similar wanting to be the best that we can and pass it on into the world. And we naturally attract each other. This is chosen family. And it's just so incredibly powerful.
As you said, and Dean, you said earlier on, everything is connected to each, we're all connected energetically and everything else. So when you change your energy, you automatically change, your environment changes and the people around you. I've always hated the term fake it till you make it, because that was always one of permanent failure. You can't, if you don't keep faking it, you're never going to get there. That came from a statement of act as if. And as you just said then, Kenny, when you act as if you are already there, I'm not going to be that anymore, I'm going to be this. All of a sudden you attract that around you. So as I say, life's a total illusion. And, you know, there's no reality, it's just an illusion. So you pick the best illusion and make that your reality.
Yeah. And I think it taps into, this is something I learned from my supervisor while I was training. She said to me, she talked about having a version of yourself. Is there another version of yourself that you think is possible? You know, and I think that's a much better way of putting it than fake it till you make it. It's about having an idea of the best version you could be of yourself. What are the characteristics of that image, that person, you know, and do you believe it's possible to be that? You know, and I think when Kenny, you were just saying about, you know, kind of aligning yourself, you know, after the trauma, I think it reminded me of somehow going back to Wales, having not been there for a long time, coming from a massive city like London, going back to Wales. Sometimes you have to kind of go away from something in order to find out what it means to you, you know, and you have to have that distance between it. And I think for a lot of people, this lockdown has been removing ourselves from, stripping away from daily life, and then questioning, what does this life mean to me? You know, it's an incredibly potent mix of things.
You know, what you just said about the different version of yourself, I wonder, I feel that as people have an idea of that and have had the space to move into that, then all the blocks, all the fears, all the things in the way come up. And very often I feel the old-fashioned ways, people think, well, how do I avoid this? Or how do I navigate around this? And I used to do that. It's fearful when these things come up. And when I changed my relationship to this, as if parts of life are coming up to say, know me, include me, release me, make peace with me, and then I will pass and you're available to more of life. I kind of feel like it's actually life on my side saying, let me go. And then it shifts and then there's more. And it just it's that kind of a game show rather than, oh my God, why is there more trouble? Oh my God, not more pain. Oh my God, life's not on my, quite the opposite. It's a change in perspective. I believe life is on my side and it shows me what I need to release in order to gain more and take part with life more. And also to see where I fail, so to speak, where my blocks are, what I'm not ready for, because I don't believe that life is going to give me more than I can cope with. And how better to test me than see where I am with these things.
Yeah, that's
interesting, isn't it? I love this conversation, by the way, and I love how we are all talking about feelings. And one of the things that I've noticed in my work and in my life is the more I am aware of how I want to feel, and I can teach my body what that feeling means to me, or what feeling I want to have, and I can actually embed that feeling into my body. That's where the attraction starts. So because you were talking about like attracts like, and that how do we all get together in this call and all of that, aside from Alan, obviously. And I think the more that I'm aware of who do I want to be and how do I want to feel, I am changing my firing and wiring, and I'm teaching my body how that feels like. And it's really been interesting going through that one, because then I've noticed in my cases, at least, that all of the materialistic things that I thought I wanted, that has kind of like just when, it doesn't matter. Because feeling that I'm the richest person on the planet, if that would be the thing, it just kind of like gives me worry, to be honest. So it's interesting just to notice the feeling, like you both of you, actually all of you were saying.
And in a way, going back Sorry, Lee.
You go on, Kenny.
I was just going to say, going back to fear for a minute, I know that I stayed in for the first month, maybe more, and I worked. And I didn't realize that I was fearful of, it's not the people outside. This is more emotional. It was like there are zombies outside and I might get bitten or scratched and I wouldn't know. And then I might turn into a zombie and I might devour my wife. And, you know, emotionally, it was like inside me, there was a horror film going on. And to be frank, I know I've still got some of that now, because my wife and I want to see my parents in Wales, and they're in their 80s. We also want to see her parents in Italy. And I'm thinking, can I stay away from people long enough so when I see them, I know I'm not contaminating them? Can I somehow avoid people just for a little bit longer? Because it's not only about catching something, it's also actually, I like my space. I like my boundaries. I like not being a sardine in a train or an unconscious person with a briefcase doing that. And it's like, I'm slowly kind of avoiding going back. I don't want to go back. I want to see my parents without a paranoia. And again, this is purely emotional, without a paranoia of, I could make you ill and kill you. That's weird to be going to our parents with, I could make you ill and kill you. That's just like off the planet weird. So I still have fear. I know that when I first passed people in the park, even though there was a distance, I avoided eye contact because I didn't want them to come near and say hello. And I treated them like the enemy. And that was strange. And I carried on for a while. So I'm one of them. I'm full of fear still. And I need to not deal with it. I need to own where I am with it and somehow know my boundaries and navigate this, because we're not back yet. And I've had quite a good time. I've really got to know myself so much more. And I've had fears and fantasies about my wife. And I've needed to say to her, I'm thinking this. Is it, you know, you never believe the last fantasy I just had that you're angry at me because I did this or I didn't do that or I said that. And she'd say, that's absolute rubbish. What are you thinking about? But the old me wouldn't say anything out. It would think it and fantasize and react to my fantasy. And we wouldn't have a relationship anymore. It would just be the dark, nasty weirdness that goes on in my head that I'd be projecting and surviving. So breaking the spell of speaking. I mean, to quote Scott Carson, the beloved Scott from Campfire, saying exactly that. It's like, the other one is, are you telling me this because you want me to fix it? Or do you want me to quietly listen? And so many people don't always feel met or heard, because it's like, well, I'll interrupt, I'll fix you, I'll get you out of pain, which really means I'm in pain listening to you and I need to get myself out of pain.
Exactly.
But it's getting down to into the fears and naming them and breaking the spell from there. It's like, it's courageous and it's life-saving.
Now, I've been through, in my second marriage, did a lot of that stuff, and it caused a lot of pain for me when I looked at it and what I lost. And I don't, you know, I've got a completely different approach to it, things now, and my life is so much happier than it's ever been. It's, as you said, if I had known what the outcome would be today, you know, where I am now, I would have done it sooner. Because, and there would have been any courage. As you said, it's courageous to do it. But the trouble is, it's a fear of not knowing what's on the other side. In my case, which was holding me back. Once I realised I had no choice, then it wasn't so much a courageous thing for me. It was something I just had to do. And then I had the rewards of that. And I'm going, you know, I think, as you mentioned before, fear being one of the major things that we should be looking at. It's not just the enemy today, it's the enemy we've had all the time, way back through all the generations and everything else. And it's only COVID that sort of, you know, really we had one thing to highlight it for us, and that we would put our focus on that. Well, I'm glad you corrected me before and said, well, maybe COVID is not the enemy, it's the fear itself.
Yeah. Well, I think it's meeting the fear is where the life is. It's kind of like where the friction is, where the spark of life is. That's where the energy is. You know, when we meet these forces, there's a kind of cataclysm and things are born out of that. Was it that said, the universe is born from chaos? You know, everything is a huge explosion, and from there, then creation is made. And it reminded me, Runa, of what you said about this wonderful analogy of in Iceland, how you're almost living on the edge of environment that supports human life, you know, that is so vibrant and so full of life that you're actually in that place where you're almost existing, but at the same time, it's so full of energy. And I think with this COVID, a lot of us feel that we're possibly living on the edge of life. We don't know if we'll be one of those people that gets it and just doesn't survive. But through meeting that fear, there's a spark of creative thinking, because we're thinking in ways that we never have before.
Excellent. Well, I'm very mindful of the time, because I know for you it's getting on to 10 o'clock in the morning over there in the UK. And with that, I know that, Kenny, you've got coaching clients coming up. So, but I sort of feel like this conversation could keep going on for quite some time, and I know I'd be enjoying it if it did. But, you know, probably have to bring it to a close at this point. Is there any final things that you'd like to say to the people who are listening? If we could start with you, Runa, if you've got anything there you'd like to say.
Not prepared for this, but what was just picking out on what comes in my mind is, for anyone that is listening, is just to remember that life is to enjoy it, and just to remember that you're never going to get out of this life alive anyway.
That's very true. How about you, Lee?
Like Runa, I wasn't prepared for this question. And I'm always reticent to answer it, because I think, you know, every one of us has wisdom within us that's waiting to speak with us. So my suggestion is to allow space for your own wisdom to come through, and allow yourself some quiet moments for that to whisper to you, your soul to whisper to you, and you'll be led that way more than what I have to say.
Excellent. And Kenny?
For me, I feel the key is in the breath. And when I'm not breathing, I'm thinking. And the bottom line is, I've never really solved anything thinking. I've just ruminated and pretended to be in control. So for me, it's a deep breath out of my head into my body. And as Lee says, then I can listen to life. But also, as I breathe in, follow the feeling back, and I'll know what's really going on, because that's what needs loving, tender care and inclusion. Otherwise, I'll believe the drama in front of me. The drama's the clue saying, let me go, follow it back, and we're free.
Excellent. Because I know that, you know, to make great decisions and everything else, we've got, you know, our emotions have got to be part of that decision. It's not just logic. I know that people who have had brain damage where they've lost that ability to feel, and they've put them through testing, they've made worse decisions than those that have had their full faculties of the emotions and everything else. So not being scared of the emotions is really important. But as you've said, Lee, to allow that inner wisdom that you have as well. So this is why I love having everybody on these panels, because I listen to you all, I go away later on, I think about it. And that's pretty much what, as Lee has said, that's when my internal wisdom starts talking to me. And that's when I can make decisions from there. So, and everyone wonders why I have all these panel discussions and so many of them, because I'm bloody greedy. I just want to get as much wealth as I possibly can. So on that point, I really want to thank all of you for coming on today. Kenny, Lee, Runa, I very much appreciate you all being here. And to everybody who's been listening in, I hope you got a lot out of it. And again, as you know, everybody's contact details and their Facebook details are here. Get in touch with them, have a chat, and hopefully you'll find some answers for yourself from there as well. But again, thanks everybody for being here, and thank you for everybody who's been listening in.
Thanks for arranging this, Alan. It's great to be with you all. Great way to start the day.
Totally. Loved hanging out.
And for me, here in the evening, it's getting towards the end, so it's a great way for me to finish off the evening. But then I think Scott Carson's doing his Facebook Live tonight, so I'll be listening in on that one. So I'll sit back with my feet up and listen to the wisdom that he and his people that he brings in go through. As I said, I'm greedy. So again, thanks everybody.
It's been a beautiful thing. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
See you all on the next campfire. Bye for now.
Bye.
Bye-bye.